The Lincoln Memorial. It was right here where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech way back in August of 1963.
But given the world we live in today, almost 6 decades later, it's rather likely that this is not the world that he had envisioned.
I mean, it's just a lot of places, like, I don't feel safe all the time. I feel conscious. I don't trust any officials. Just like constant history, like, I mean, it's not made up. Like, black people experience trauma from slavery coming now to modern racism, and so it's not like not unexpected for me to feel the way I feel. But yeah, it definitely has affected me in the sense that, like, I don't feel comfortable in my own spaces sometimes.
Willie Lyles, legislative director and counsel to Majority Whip James Clyburn, had similar thoughts. The South Carolina native encountered his first experience with racism at the age of 12 when he was called the N-word.
Public officials have the ability to create space and to make people feel comfortable saying things that they wouldn't necessarily say otherwise. I think that the data demonstrates that hate crimes have increased over the life of the Trump administration. I wouldn't say that there is a direct relation, but I think that there's enough evidence to demonstrate that there's some reason to give people that.
For Juan, a young student from Virginia, the problem began way back in the past.
I would say the current administration has influenced modern racism, but I think it's important to remember that it's not just Trump's administration and that it's been going on since the beginning of the United States inception. So white supremacy has literally been the framework for this country. Racism is going to be embedded within our society, within everything, because of the systems that made those basically power structures. And until those are dismantled, it will always be a part of our country.
But there are, of course, other opinions.
No, I really don't see much systemic racism in this country. I mean, there's no law on the books or anything written anywhere that's systemically racist.
We have a president that speaks from the heart, and the way he speaks sometimes is messy, but he's speaking truthfully. And I think he's honest enough to say that there's good and bad in all races.
I think the modern administration has done more to help the minorities than any administration in the last 25 years.
Statements like these cause Lyles to worry about the possibility of 4 more years under the Trump administration.
The re-election of the president would provide a signal and further create further space for people to feel that they can make statements or take actions that they would not have taken prior to his candidacy and prior to his election.
But what went wrong? Where did MLK's dream get lost?
We lack an inability in our country to walk in another person's shoes. Our inability to see ourselves in other people can cause us to have blinders, whether you're talking about race, whether you're talking about gender, whether you're talking about sexual orientation. Our inability to see ourselves in each other, I think, causes us not to recognize the problem that we have.
So after all these years, will there ever be an America without racism?
I'm from South Carolina. Our motto is, while I breathe, I hope. So I'll say I hope. I hope.